On October 22, 2011, 12-year-old Dasha Burdina, a resident of Asbest, had an ordinary school morning. Her mother fed the child and sent her to school. The girl studied in the 6th grade of school number 12. But after the end of the first lesson, the girl's mother received a call from the teacher and reported that Dasha did not show up for classes. The women thought that the girl was just late and would return home when the lessons were over. But Dasha never came home. First time Galina Burdina, the girl's mother, tried to find her daughter on her own, called all acquaintances and relatives, but Dasha did not appear at anyone. Then the woman turned to the police. The search was further complicated by the fact that Dasha had not taken her cell phone with her that morning. All the law enforcers learned in the first few days was that the girl was last seen at the kiosk. When Dasha went to school, she met her classmates. They went into the kiosk, and when they came out, Dasha was gone. The disappearance of Dasha Burdina caused a great public outcry. Dozens of volunteers from Asbest and Yekaterinburg participated in the search for the child. At first, the girl was searched in the city, often searching basements and attics in the vicinity of Dasha's house at night. Operatives were knocked off their feet in search of the child. The police physically lacked enough people to comb asbest and the nearby forests. Then the next day, volunteers from the voluntary movement Search for Children came to help the detectives. Then the circle of searches expanded to the neighborhoods of the city. The volunteers were particularly interested in the water-filled quarry. Two sisters, both residents of Srednyuralsk, responded to the plea for help and, leaving their 5-year-old sons to their relatives, went in search of them. There are no stranger children. The girl volunteers briefly explained their impulse. Coordinator Ilya Smyshlyaev said the same thing. Who else but us? It's simple. It's like an impulse. I mean, someone donates blood because they want to help. And we're looking for missing children. In Russia, about 15,000 children are lost a year. 1/500 of them are never found. But we have to try. What if we help save someone? As I said, the searchers were interested in the quarry. Two operatives of the Criminal Investigation Department led the searchers to the place and set the task to comb through several steps of the quarry. The girl could have fallen off and fallen down, or she could have been thrown down, the police explained. When they descended to the first, if you counted from above, step of the quarry, the searchers moved along the side, lined up in a chain. The pines, yellow from the lack of useful minerals, had grown to their waists and clung to their clothes. Large boulders were covered with snow in some places, and some were blackened with moisture. And each such spot, as if shouts to every searcher, "Maybe Dasha is here?" The searchers try to look under each of them. And a friend shouted, "Found it! Found some clothes!" shouts Olga, one of the sisters. Everyone rushed towards it. In the crevice, between 3 boulders, half the height of a man, lay a pile of rags. The volunteer carefully began to rake it up, remembering what the missing girl was wearing, a black sweatshirt and jeans. And when he came across pants similar in description, his heart sank. From the words of this volunteer, it's hard to describe the mixture of feelings experienced, chief among which was the hope that we'd finally get some kind of lead, or maybe even end the search altogether. He gingerly pulled his jeans out from under the rock, already prepared to stumble upon a dead body, and at the same time, dreading it. What if there really is a child's body under the snow? The volunteer thought. But the black pants turned out to be just a part of the pile of rags that someone had thrown into the quarry for some reason. There was nothing else between the rocks. And that made him feel better. After all, if the discovery turned out to be nothing and the girl's remains had not been found yet, there was at least a slim chance that she was alive. The 3 steps of the western edge of the quarry, from the very edge of the quarry to the road used by multi-ton trucks, the volunteers surveyed silently and concentrated, empty. But it was too early to call off the operation. The operatives asked to comb the exclusion zone, a strip of 500 meters wide from the road to the edge of the quarry, and in length 2.5 kilometers from the destroyed bridge to the asbestos factory. Earlier, 40, 50 years ago, Instead of one gigantic mine, there were two small ones. And the neighborhood, which they were to explore, was quite prosperous. Their own houses, gardens with vegetable gardens. But the quarry had grown, and now the former abundance was left to wild raspberries, gnarled apple trees, and clinging bushes with holes of rotten cellars between them. It was a place that begged for crime. And the volunteers began their rounds, in spite of their fatigue. But they found nothing in the deep ditch, nor in the rusty pipes, nor in the red brick ruins, nor in the cellar pits. Gradually, after each day of searching, the unexplored areas in the vicinity of Asbest are becoming less and less. On Wednesday, volunteers closed the left side of the quarry and the exclusion zone next to it, as well as a section of forest near the Papanintsev settlement, where sheepdogs found the corpse of a dog. On Friday, searchers scoured the area along the road to the Kirpichny settlement, sewage treatment plants, an abandoned children's camp, the right side of the quarry, and an abandoned military base, from which GRU Special Forces were withdrawn several years ago. In vain. Neither the girl nor any trace of her could be found anywhere. On the one hand, this was encouraging. Maybe the child is alive. And on the other hand, it was depressing. A day wasted. When each volunteer leaves the place of search, looks out the window and thinks how many places have not yet been surveyed. And each person realizes why ordinary people, road workers, educators, middle-aged merchants, housewives, go out of their way to spend their time searching for missing children. They simply cannot wait and live in ignorance when a child has disappeared. And every day of the search gives a clear certainty. There are no traces of lost in this area. True, this means only one thing: the work must continue. Nevertheless, throughout the whole time, investigators were looking at Dasha's stepfather, Sergei Toporkov. Previously convicted of a violent crime, the man, who also participated in the search, denied his involvement in the disappearance of his stepdaughter. Moreover, the family was characterized positively. According to official data, there was no reason to detain the stepfather and interrogate him with bias. The man aroused suspicion because he was the only one of the girl's relatives who refused to take a lie detector test. When the man refused to take a polygraph test, we immediately took note of it, because an honest person has nothing to hide, says Alexei Kardashian, Deputy Chief of Operations in Asbest. We started waiting for him to puncture, and a year later, the stepfather himself came to the police and said that he agreed to take a lie detector test. He probably thought that a year later, he would be able to answer the questions calmly and thus be able to deceive the polygraph. But the criminal's plan did not work, and the lie detector showed that the man was lying. 2 days after the arrest, the stepfather confessed to Dasha's murder, says Alexei Kardashian. There was a lot of evidence against him, and he could not confirm his alibi. Finally, we persuaded him to show the burial site and went there in the middle of the night. Dasha was lying in a hollow under a huge stone. Dasha and I met near a kiosk, the murderous stepfather said during the interrogation. I pushed her, she fell down, and so, after Dasha died, her stepfather wrapped her in a blanket and 2 sacks, put her in a cart, and drove her to the quarry. There he buried her. We have been looking for the girl for a whole year. Divers have swam through all the water bodies, sighs Alexei Kardashian. Local residents even wrote statements against us, saying that we checked the same places too often. And the child was very close, just 1.5 kilometers from home. For a whole year, Dasha Burdina's 46-year-old stepfather pretended to be a grief-stricken parent, and only now explained the motives for the terrible deed. The girl allegedly interfered with his family happiness. The wife of the accused and Dasha Burdina's mother, Galina, refused to comment at first. According to relatives, she was in a very bad condition. The school where the girl studied could not believe what had happened. Here she is called no other than our Dasha. According to teachers, she was responsive and responsible. She had no conflicts with her classmates. Irina Nifantova. The only thing I was confirmed that this is really our girl. I called and found out that there might be a mistake after all. We spent the whole year and even more than a year living with the idea that she was still alive. Soon by the court's verdict, Toporkov was sentenced to imprisonment for a term of 16 years, with serving time in a strict regime colony, as well as with further restriction of freedom for a period of 2 years.